How fast did Joseph Smith translate the Book of Mormon? Well, the short answer,
I promise that as you ponder what you study, the windows of heaven will open, and you will receive answers to your own questions.
well, the short answer, most historians believe that the bulk of the Book of Mormon, about 530 printed pages, was translated between April the 7th, 1829 and late June of 1829, roughly 65 to 85 working days. Joseph was 23 years old. How did he do it? Well, Joseph Smith dictated the entire book to his main scribe, Oliver Cowdery, the equivalent of 6 to 8 printed pages per day on average, or about 2,500 to 3,500 words per day, and witnesses described Joseph dictating for hours at a time without any written notes. Emma Smith later recalled, when I was acting as his scribe, Joseph would dictate to me hour after hour, and when returning after meals or after interruptions, he would at once begin where he had left off, without either seeing the manuscript or having any portion of it read to him. It would have been improbable that a learned man could do this, and for one so ignorant and unlearned as he was, it was simply impossible. Why do scholars find this remarkable? Well, the finished text contains complex narratives spanning 1,000 years of history, extensive sermons, prophecies, and doctrinal discussions, consistent internal chronology and geography, in all more than 269,000 words. What does that really mean? Well, let me give you some book comparisons. The entire New Testament, from Matthew to the Revelation, is only about 180,000 words and took hundreds of years to compile. What about a popular book like Harry Potter? Well, the longest Harry Potter books are about 200,000 words, and they each took J.K. Rowling about 2 years to write. A classic book like Moby Dick is about 210,000 words and took Herman Melville almost 18 months to write. May I share some personal thoughts? I'm the author or co-author of over 20 books myself. A few of them #1 New York Times bestsellers. Now, it's not important that you know the names of my books. It's the process I want to share with you. Most of my books have about 100,000 words, less than half the number of words found in the Book of Mormon. And each of my books took at least a year, sometimes 2 years, to create the rough manuscript using a computer and a word processor. And in writing, I made hundreds of edits, rewrites, and changes. And then I turned the rough manuscript over to my publishers, who made many more changes, dozens of corrections and edits to produce the final product. When I read how Joseph Smith produced the words that you now read in the Book of Mormon in such a short period of time, with no edits or just very few edits, I am astounded, because I know how hard it is to create a remarkable, intelligent work with modern tools. In my opinion, what he did to produce a complete, full manuscript with so few changes in such a short period of time is simply miraculous. But the fundamental question is not how fast Joseph Smith dictated the Book of Mormon, but where the content ultimately came from. Critics generally attribute it to Joseph Smith and to his environment, that he was a genius and he wrote it himself. Latter-day Saints attribute it to an ancient record translated through divine revelation for our day, containing a 1,000-year history of the ancient inhabitants of the Americas, with prophecies of prophets who lived here on the American continent. How did Joseph Smith obtain this record? Well, there's a description of the unusual origin of the Book of Mormon in the first few pages of the Book of Mormon, and I recommend that you read it. The story is almost unbelievable, but I believe that you'll be amazed at the miraculous origins of the content in the Book of Mormon. But what about the content of the book itself? The only way you'll find out is to get a copy and read it for yourself. So let's discuss what's in the Book of Mormon in the next episode. In the meantime, click on the link down below and get a copy of this amazing book. You're going to love it.